this is Sam, the Frugal Gardener, and today is September 1st, and I'm getting ready to plant my fall garden. I just wanted to give a little walkthrough, but since the sun's coming out, it's going to be glaring. I'm going to start at the other end. So let's go. Okay, so we're here on the back side of my garden, and as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and take you for a little walkthrough and tell you what my plans are of what I need to do. Now in this zone over here in 9A, I have to kind of do it in September, the end of September over here, because it's been way too hot and way too humid. So I'm a little bit later than everybody else. I'm in a little pocket over here. But anyways, let's get on with it. Okay, so I went ahead and turned over all my beds just like that. If you look on down, you'll see most of them got nothing grown in it. I got my trellises I have to plant on either side of it. During the end of my spring crop, I went ahead and redid all my trellises. You can see that I have all my drip irrigation hanging up because I was in there working. When I work on it, I throw them up and over. And then you can see the railing up on the top on this side and that side. Well, that railing's going to be for my shade cloth, and I still have to finish working on it. But as we come through over here, I still left some eggplants, and I tied them up. They've been producing, and a lot of them been getting overripe because there's way too many to eat in there. But they're looking really good. I got my bee feeder over here, the waterer. I got to go ahead and clean that out because you got to give your honeybees something to drink when they fly a few miles to get here. And just the other day I did a video. I'm making this trellis over here to hold up my eggplants, because basically the eggplants are like up and over my head over here. So, and I'm going to keep them trimmed off so they don't go higher than that. I just let them get a little bushier, but even when they get bushier, they pull the leaves down, so I have to go ahead and trim it up. So, but now I got to go ahead and I'm going to start with my tomato plants, and depending on where I'm going to plant them, I'm going to come in with my auger, drill down, set the tomato plants in there, and I'll show you how that's done. I did last year on the video. I'll do it this year. My tomato plants, I started them with a lot of other plants. I sowed the seeds in the house under LED lights. They're out on the porch now, ready to move into the garden. And then I got a lot of packages of other plants that I need to just sow in the ground, and then other ones that I got to sow on the porch. So let me show you what those seeds look like. Okay, so I'm on my porch and I have packs of seeds over here, and I'm gonna kind of show you what I normally do. I have some plants over there in pots that I sowed in the house under LED lights. I moved them out into the porch, and I have shade cloth that was protecting them from the sun, and I'll show you those in a minute. But there's a lot of things that I want to direct sow. So I have seed containers like this, and each one has individual packs in it, and within these cases I have individual seed packs. So I got a few of those. Okay, I usually take containers like this. I make my own potting soil. I have videos on that. And then I sow the seeds, and I have them inside under LED lights. Out here, I used to go ahead and do them in containers like this, but I went ahead and got some special trays that I made. I did a DIY video on that, and I'm going to sow them in there to move out into the garden. And then I have my seed packs, like some beans and stuff like that, and you know, collards and just all kinds of stuff here that I'm going to sow. But I'm going to sow them for the most part in my trays. The only ones I'm going to sow in the garden are on my trellises, and they're vining, that way they take root. I went ahead and planted inside the house my tomato plants and my pepper plants, and I moved them outside. They were all in these containers, but when I took them out, I went ahead and sowed them, and then I went ahead and put them in here so I didn't get them mixed up. And what I do is after I open up the seed pack's open, I fold the seed pack and I take this little micro clip and I put it on each one and fold these down so your seeds don't come out. And then of course I put them in baggies and put them in the house just so I know these are the ones that I already sowed, and the ones that I did not sow are in these cases right now and right over here, and I'm going to go ahead and start working on those. So over here I sowed my tomato plants inside. They're really tall right now. They grew real nice. When I moved them outside, they just shot up even further and they started falling over because they're vines, and that's what they do. But they got a nice thick base and they're growing really good. And when I plant these in the garden, I'm going to use an auger. So these are about 2 feet, a little over 2 feet tall right now. So with the auger, I'm going to drill into the soil and put them down about a foot or so. And just a little bit's going to be up and over the soil. And that means I'm going to have about a foot of roots that are going to grow out of these vines, and they're going to take really well. Now in my trays over here, I have a lot of peppers and other plants going on. I'm trying to harden them up outside right now. They were in the house all this time. And then over here, I made these on a DIY project, and I made some potting soil because there's a shortage of peat moss. And I'm going to go ahead and put some of my row crops in there. So, with that said, let me go ahead and get at it. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and plant my onions, their row crop. So, what I'm going to do is prep the soil. I already made the soil, which is seed starting soil. I got a video on that below. And what I'm doing now is I'm going in with my hand, I'm breaking it up like this. Just making sure it's all nice and fluffy right here. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that for all of these back at you. Okay, so I just went ahead and laid out all my trays, even the ones in pots that I need to sow. And right down here, I went ahead and put some more seed starter mix, so I brought it up to the top. I went ahead and chopped it all up, made it all soft. Now I'm going to water it, and then I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to start planting some seeds. Okay, so I have some sweet white onion seeds. I got my marker. I wet the soil down, that's why all the perlite came to the top. And I got a pencil, and now I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle these in. I'm probably going to have to get more, but this is probably enough for me. So I'm going to level this out a little bit like this. Same thing over here. Okay. So I'm just going to put these in rows over here. So I'm just going to press this down like that. Okay, so what I did is I just indent it with my pencil. So when I sprinkle them, I can level off the top, and they're just slightly under the soil. Now they're real hard to put down because of the size of them. And my hands are wet, so I'm going to try to do the best I could. I should dry my hands first. Okay, so I went ahead and planted or sowed my seeds for my white onions over there. So now I'm going to go over there to the table and sow some seeds in some trays. Okay, Okay, so I had my potted soil I made in here, and I went ahead and put them in some trays, or I should say I put them in some pots, and then I put the pots in trays so the water could drain. Now I marked a container, cauliflower, and I'm going to work my way across and put the seeds in. All I do for cauliflower, and I do the same for everything, I just take a little pencil, or you take your finger, and you push down in there just a little bit like that. And I do a bunch of trays. I put the seeds in a container so they don't spill all over. And then you take one seed and you put it in there, and you just put a little bit of dirt over it. Depending on if you want 1 or 2 per plant to a pot. I don't have a shortage on pots, so I only put 1 per pot. So that's about it. Just put a little divot in there. Take 1 seed, put it in there, and just put a little bit of soil over it, and then you'll water it in. And then of course you're going to label them like this. So let me go ahead and do what I got to do and back at you. Okay, so I went ahead and finished. What I decided to do was I potted up a whole bunch of square ones, and I went ahead and sowed my onions and stuff like that. So that's all I could do for now, is let those go ahead and sow and sprout, and then let these harden up. So the only thing left to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my tomato plants, which are super long, and I'm going to go ahead and plant those a foot down in my horse manure in the garden tomorrow morning with the auger. Let's see how that turns out. Okay, so here I am out in the garden first thing in the morning. It rained last night, so everything's kind of wet, but I'm going to go ahead, using my auger, I'm going to go ahead and plant some tomato plants. So I'm going to go on that side to trellis and use my auger. Okay, so I have a feed bag that I use, because on the inside of the feed bag it has plastic, so when I kneel on it or sit on it, I'm not going to get a wet butt. Got my auger, got a towel, got my tomato plant, and I'm going to go ahead and plant. Okay, so right over here, I'm going to take this straight down from the trellis over here. Okay, this right here is 12 inches, and I go down a little further, so it's 12, 13, 14, maybe 15 inches down. So what I do is I take a tomato plant, and this one here is pretty tall. I got my label. And I have my plant just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and take it and take off some of these leaves right here, the stems, just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in the hole all the way down like that. So as you can see, this here actually already touches my trellis. I had them inside under LED lights. I moved them out on the porch to harden up, and I was busy doing other stuff. So they tend to, with the wind and everything, they went ahead and laid over. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in and then tie it up over here, and I'll be good to go. But you can see the purpose of the video is that I use an auger that drills straight down, and I put the tomato plant straight down over a foot, and the stem of it on both sides are going to now start growing roots all the way to ground level. So it's going to have over a foot of roots coming out. I love this method. The method of turning it sideways and laying it down so it comes up and the roots lay down like that yes, that gives you more roots, but all the roots are on the top. So if your soil gets a little dry on top, that's it. The roots can't get anything. So when I put it down a foot, all the way down a foot is always going to be moist, and it's going to be sucking up all that moisture. So it has a foot down of deep rooting instead of running along the top when you flip it over. So anyway, this is the method that I use, and I like it, and my plants seem to like it. So once I go ahead and do that, what I do is all I do is take the dirt and I backfill it like that, and I pack it down. Here's a ribbon from last year. I'll just go ahead and take this, just for now, and I'll go ahead and tie it up. Okay, so I just put that on there temporary. These ribbons expand, so it's okay, but here you go. That's one tomato plant planted. So anyway, what I'm gonna go ahead and do, oh, by the way, so then after that, I take one of these and I take my drip irrigation here, and I just go ahead and do this, and I place the drip head about hand's length, about 5 inches away from the plant. You don't want to have it dripping right on the plant. It could get root rot, so I have it dripping over. Those roots, the water's going to go down and expand. Those roots are going to find it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is plant another one here and all the way down. Okay, so right here is where I'm going to put another one. I try to space them out pretty evenly. So I'm going to go straight down under. Okay, so I drilled another hole. So now I'll take another plant and I'll set it down in there. Here's the label. I got the plant. I'm going to go ahead and take off some of these right here. Take it out of the pot. Now I'm going to go ahead and set this in the hole all the way down. And I'm going to backfill it. So what I'm going to do is when they grow up, I'm going to have one stem turn into 2 stems and go up like this. One stem, I'm going to turn it into 2, and they're going to go up. So one plant's going to produce 2. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and drill all my holes before I set them in. So back at you. So another thing when you use the auger, besides it drilling down over a foot and being wide enough for your plant's roots to go down, it pulls up, it drills the hole, it digs down into all your manure or into your compost, and it also pulls it up. So when you put the stem down in there and backfill it, all that good compost or manure is packed all the way around it, so it already has all that good moisture and nutrients to start growing. So when you have chips on top, you move the chips out a little bit and you're drilling into the compost, manure, or whatever you're utilizing, and you're digging in that. If you go ahead and use a spade, the hole gets big, chips fall in, all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely beneficial and a lot easier just to drill straight down, and it goes a lot faster. So let me go ahead and drill one more hole right over here. Okay, so I just drilled down into the manure and the old manure all the way down there. So now I'm going to set my plant down in there. So I'll take this and set it way down in there. Boom, it's down about a foot. And I took all the leaves off over here. And that's just gonna set right up here like that. And then I'll backfill it. Okay, so there you go. I'm going to finish this row and that row and then be done with it. I just want to do this little short video to show you I started my fall planting, and this is how I plant. Back at you. Okay, so I went ahead and drilled down a couple tomato plants on some of my trellises going all the way down to the back. I have more seeded that are going to come out here in a few weeks, and I'm going to let them go ahead and grow. Meanwhile, I have my eggplants going, and I have my watermelons going, and my grapevines going, and my banana plants going, and my loquat trees going. So I got seeds sowed, so as soon as they sprout and come up, they'll be coming in the garden. I just wanted to get these tomato plants out here planted because they were getting way too long on the porch. So I'm glad I kind of came out here and did it. When I set a few of them down there, probably about 2 of them, I broke the stem. So I still left the root in the ground because the stem is going to grow roots and another sprout should come out. We'll see what happens. So back at you. Okay, so I'm out here first thing in the morning. Yesterday I went ahead and planted and tied up my tomato plants. So I'm out here first thing in the morning to see what they look like and to conclude this video. So let's get on with it. Well, I went ahead and planted some new Vine and Blue Lake string beans. That's what this is over here, Blue Lake stringless string beans. I got this one, and that one starting out. And on this row, I went ahead and planted these tomato plants. I tied them up to the trellis. They're a foot down. Now over here, I went ahead and planted some squash, butternut squash, and butterbush squash. So these could come up and they could go ahead and go over the trellises eventually. Then over here, I went ahead and staked up my tomato plants until they could reach the trellis. And I went ahead and planted zucchinis over here and zucchinis down there. You can see the tags, and hopefully I'll get them to grow up and over the trellis. Now over here, I went ahead and did a couple more tomato plants. I got room for some more. And then I went ahead and did some cucumbers there and some cucumbers there. I'm going to try to get them to grow up and over. They might not make it all the way. And then over here, I went ahead and planted some more tomato plants. And then I went ahead and planted some melons. And over here, some other type of melons. And then over here, I went ahead and planted some melons. And over here I planted some melons, and hopefully those are going to go up and over the trellises. And then over here I planted a little bit more tomato plants. Okay, so with that said, I just tried to plant so I could have everything starting to come up around the trellises, and hopefully within a month or so they'll be going up and over. And then I'm getting my tomato plants going out here. But on the porch I still have seeds that I sowed, and I also have some plants coming up. I just don't feel that they're ready to be planted, so I got to come over here and finish rabbit proofing over here and see where any of that chicken wire has been pushed through or rusted, or there's a little hole in it and stuff like that. But anyway, this really concludes my starting to plant my fall crop. I went ahead and planted in the ground, and I sowed, and then hopefully before long everything is going to start looking like this up here on the trellis, and I'm hoping it makes it up and over. This one here has already made it up and over, and there's probably caterpillars over here eating some of my leaves. I haven't seen them yet, so I'll come in here at night with a UV light, and I'm going to give them a thorough look over. I don't know, but it's okay if some of these leaves get eaten. The plant's still going to survive, but I do want to find it. So anyways, there's a little morning tour of the work I did yesterday. My fall garden's getting started. I just do a little bit every day and plug away. I don't want to kill myself doing everything at once. And you shouldn't do everything at once. You have to do it in stages. Plant some plants, sow some seeds, get some under LED lights, get some on your porch, pot it. Eventually it'll all be planted. There is no big rush. So with that said, back at you.